Hello everyone, back tuning in today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next 10 to 14 days for today's second video. So day 10 will take us to the 27th of December, and we'll be able to extend out beyond that with extended GFS and ECM ensembles. We're going to have a look at Beijing Climate Centre today for the next 40 days, and I shall get on with that for you very shortly. Just say that the European Outlook has been released, so that's probably going to be the last European Outlook of the year, so have a look at that. It looks like it'll be turning colder in the north and west of Europe as we go through the Christmas period, so have a look at the European Outlook when you are done with this one. We're going to have our 21st Christmas update for you tonight, so update number 21 out of 24, I think it is, or 25 for Christmas, so that will be coming up for you tonight. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, okay, so we're going to start off with the temperatures at 10 HPA in the stratosphere over the North Pole. Keeping a very close eye on this, of course, as always, in the winter. So where we've got these blue and purple colours, these are the cold temperatures at 10 HPA over the North Pole in the stratosphere. It's kind of like polar vortex at its roots. Let's see what happens with these temperatures then over the next couple of weeks. So as we run out towards Christmas, we're going to get our first sort of quite significant warming occurring over Siberia around Christmas Eve. Just there, another little secondary warming is appearing over the Mediterranean Sea and into southeastern parts of Europe as well. So yeah, a little bit of a warming around the edges, but in the Arctic itself, 10 HPA, we keep those blue and purple colours going through there up to Christmas. These are the cold temperatures at 10 HPA in the stratosphere. Let's see what happens in more extended range. So we sort of intensify the warming just after Christmas. This is like Boxing Day to 27th of December. You see how the yellow colours sort of gathering here over Siberia and stretching down in towards like North Africa and Mediterranean. So that's a big swathe of quite significant warming that is occurring there on the eastern side of the Arctic. Now, this is not a sudden stratospheric warming. It's not reaching most sort of temperature levels at this point, but sometimes when you get a big swathe of warming like that from like the Mediterranean, North Africa, all the way over to like the Pacific side of Siberia, when you get that sort of very large area of warming, that can sometimes be a precursor to a sudden stratospheric warming. That warming intensifies further around the 30th of December. This is almost reaching like sudden stratospheric warming temperature levels. It is a large area of warmer than warm temperatures that we've got at 10 HPA in the stratosphere by sort of the end of the year. Enough to start pushing these blue and purple colours, so the polar vortex of these roots in the stratosphere, more over towards the Atlantic and Greenland side of the Arctic. So a little bit of a displacement is starting to occur actually there. And we get through to the very end of this GFS run, and we find that we've still got this warming here over on the Siberian side of the Arctic, and we're sort of stretching these blue colours to breaking point, really. So you can see how this area of blue cold temperatures at 10 HPA has been displaced over towards the Atlantic side of the Arctic and is being stretched. It is not quite reaching like a split of the polar vortex at its roots, but it really is stretching it to breaking point, almost like stretching an elastic band. So if there was to be any further warming, let's say if this area here over Siberia was to re-intensify, or was to get another warming from the Atlantic side of the Arctic around here, if there was to be any further warming, then I think that will probably, you know, split the polar vortex, because that really is being pulled to breaking point at that point on the 2nd of January as far as we go with the GFS. So things are continuing to look very, very interesting stratosphere-wise, and we'll keep a very close eye on that. Another way of looking at polar vortex is with the zonal winds. So, of course, at this time of year, the zonal winds are just about at their strongest. This is from weatheriscool.com. So you can see from this black line that zonal winds increase and get stronger into this time of year, really reaching their strongest point of the year, like end of December into early January, just there. And then later in the winter, through to the spring, through to the summer, zonal winds weaken, and the polar vortex, for a while anyway, disappears in the summer. Now, through this season so far, which is the blue line, we have actually had quite a strong zonal wind through most of it, especially back in November and into early December. Where we currently are with the zonal wind is around there. So we are actually a little bit weaker than average with zonal winds right now. Over the next week, the GFS ensembles are forecasting that zonal winds will actually strengthen again and become a little bit stronger than average before really falling out through Christmas week. So as we go into like the new year, the GFS ensembles are indicating that zonal winds is gonna decelerate a lot. Not reversal of zonal winds, not yet seeing a reversal of zonal winds going down to this zero line, but certainly like a very rapid weakening. Deceleration of zonal winds looks like it's going to take place at the end of the year and at the end of December. Sometimes when you get a very rapid deceleration of zonal winds after you've been through a period of quite strong zonal winds, they suddenly decelerate. That can sometimes have kind of like the same sort of impacts as a sudden stratospheric warming. Really can see the zonal winds tumbling off into reverse and a big weakening of the polar vortex. Not necessarily saying that will happen this time, but sometimes if you do get a rapid deceleration of zonal winds from quite a strong level to a much weaker level, even if it's not technically a reversal of zonal winds, it can have similar sort of impacts on the atmosphere in terms of weakening the polar vortex and also blocking. So from a stratosphere perspective, this winter continues to look very, very interesting and very different to last winter, which is like this red dash line when you see that throughout most of last winter we had the PV of doom, polar vortex of doom, and most periods last winter the polar vortex was reaching like very strong or at times sort of record strong levels, especially so later in the winter. So kind of like through February into March, we really did have a very, very intensely strong zonal wind then, which was regularly at sort of record levels for like 2 or 3 weeks before it finally weakened further on into the spring. But even then, it wasn't really until May, actually, that we got rid of the polar vortex of doom. So even through most of April, the PV of doom tried to keep going here and stayed a lot stronger than would normally be the case. Anyway, the upshot is things are looking very different from a stratosphere perspective for this winter. No PV of doom. Yeah, and no sign of a PV of doom either. So things are looking very, very different for this winter stratosphere-wise compared to the winter 2019-20, that I'm sure you remember so very well. Right, let's have a look at CT then. So we'll continue to monitor what's happening in the stratosphere, of course, over the coming days, weeks, and the next few months. So this is how a CT is currently looking. Central temperature is currently standing at 5.4, which is an anomaly of half a degree above average. That's provisional to the 16th of December, provisional to yesterday. So just a little bit above average for December overall. Remember, the first week of the month was quite cold, actually. At one point, we even went down to like 2.9, I think, sometime through the first week of December. The second week has been a lot milder. So we've reached the middle of the month. We're basically average to ever so slightly above. The next week we'll see this go up further. So it's going to go into the 6s over the coming weeks. So by the time we look at this early next week, I think we'll be somewhere in the low 6s. And then like the last week of the month, we'll probably see this lowering again. So last week of the month does look a little bit colder. So in the end, we're probably going to come out a bit above average. I would have thought probably somewhere like mid to high 5s, I think, is where we'll end up with this December. Certainly not like a December 2015, nowhere near as mild as December 2015 was, but equally definitely not a December to remember like 2010 either, which of course we never expected. We always said that December to remember in terms of cold and snow wasn't going to happen, so we never expected a severely cold December. But when we get to the end of the month, I think we will say that this has been one of the cooler Decembers that we've had for a little while. It's not up there with like our mildest Decembers, despite the fact that it is going to be very mild in the next few days. These are the 500 millibar height modelling flow charts from Penn State University for the next week to 10 days. It will take us through the Christmas period to 27th of December. We've got the ECMWF on the top, and the GFS is down here on the bottom. So 500 millibars is an area in the atmosphere, high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream running above. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. We can see that with the ECM, we've got above average heights to our north and northwest, and extending back to northern blocking, below average heights, low pressure to our south and southeast. And we're going to be pulling in quite cold winds from the north. Now, what's probably going to happen with this high is that this is going to slip southwards and allow energy to move in from the Atlantic just after Christmas. So it'll probably get milder for a little while, day or two just after Christmas. But then I think as we move towards the new year, we're going to be watching out the high pressure push back northwards again and potentially pull another northerly in sometime at the end of December. So that will be something beyond sort of the 10-day time frame. The GFS is very similar. Again, so we see again, we've got this area of above average heights to our north and northwest, below average heights to our south, southeast, winds in from a north or northeasterly direction. So looks cold as we go up to the Christmas period, still looking cold up to the Christmas period. And then probably bring a little bit of energy in from the Atlantic just after Christmas, reverting wind back to west for a while before the wind comes in from the north. I think the reason that happens is that there's going to be a big cold blast into eastern parts of America, which will sort of pep up the jet stream just around Christmas. So this northerly is going to plunge southwards into North and East America on Christmas Day, and I think that will pep up the jet stream. And so for a couple of days after Christmas, we'll probably go back to a rather milder westerly before the high pressure pulls back northwards again and allows another northerly to plunge south. So I think that's the kind of thing that we're looking out for. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next 2 weeks. I'm at Bristol today. Red lines are 30-year upper air temperature average for Bristol. So the next few days up to like 23rd of December, Christmas Eve, going to be quite mild. Christmas Eve itself will see a change to something colder, and those colder conditions continue then through Christmas Day, probably through Boxing Day as well. As you get around 27th, 28th of December, we may well start to lift up the temperature a little bit just there. And then, as we get towards the new year, though, we probably see those temperatures becoming colder again. Although there is quite a bit of scatter by that point, as you would expect. I think we probably have more ensembles down here that are quite cold around the new year than the ones up here that are milder. So I think we're looking at like a mild spell over the next sort of 5-6 days. Then Christmas, we still get our Christmas colds interlude just here on Christmas cold snap, or Christmas cold spell, Christmas Eve to Boxing Day. Probably goes milder for a couple of days after that, and then goes colder as we head towards the new year. Precipitation-wise, there's going to be a lot of rain coming up over the next few days with this milder spell just here. Weather fronts are going to get stuck, particularly across England and Wales, so there is potentially a little bit of flooding here, I think, actually, in the next few days, unfortunately. Not what you want this year coming up towards Christmas, so that will be something to keep a close eye on for anybody, particularly in sort of southern, western England and Wales, close to rivers and those sort of areas that are prone to flooding. That is a large amount of rain. Looks like it's falling between sort of tomorrow and up to the 23rd of December. After that, as it goes drier, it goes colder. As it goes colder, it goes drier. But not completely dry. There is some precipitation around, so that raises the prospect of a few wintry showers, more particularly for northern areas. And then possibly going rather unsettled as we come towards the end of the year. Of course, that could be associated with like some colder weather as well. So that might be a little bit wintry towards the new year. Temperature anomalies from the 17th of December to the 25th of Christmas Day. Going to be milder than average. Have got plenty of mild days to come until we get to the colder weather around Christmas. Precipitation anomalies look a little bit drier than average actually for northern eastern Scotland, but for England and Wales it's going to be wetter than average. Latest wind flow map from earthnullschool.net shows that west-southwesterlies are in again today, so it's another mild day in this sort of protracted mild spell that we're having through the middle part of December. Right, so this is how UK Met looks for Sunday. Low pressure's in control, winds are in from the west, so it's going to be cloud and outbreaks of rain on Sunday. Monday, we probably bring in a southerly tracking low to the south. That will bring outbreaks of rain. What's happening here is that the low pressure, main low pressure, is kind of to the north, and we're trying to see cold air digging in around that low pressure from the north and from Greenland. Very mild air is down here across much of southern southwestern Europe. So just here it's colder, just here it's milder. And in between, we've got weather fronts that are marking the boundary between colder and milder conditions. So there's probably going to be like a weather front that is kind of strung out and connects back to that low pressure just there. But that one could form a little low, and there could actually be another little low forming there along that weather front. And so this is why it does look as though we're in for a very wet spell across England and Wales, because that weather front just sort of gets stuck. There we are on Tuesday, and again, you can see the idea is still there. There's this trailing weather front down across England and Wales. So Scotland and Northern Ireland, it probably starts turning cold as early as the early part of next week. That's Wednesday, as far as we go with the UK Met. And again, we've still got this weather front trailing through southern parts of the country at the same time, though colder air is digging into the north. Now, of course, if this was to develop into a significant area of low pressure in the south, and the cold air was to continue to force its way in from the north, then that could hold out the prospect of some snow on the boundary between the mild and the cold air sometime around Christmas Eve. There is no suggestion of that at the moment, but it might be one to watch, something that could creep up on us over the next couple of days. It just depends how quickly we get these areas of low pressure away from the south and push that cold air down from the north. That's as far as we go for UK Met. This is how the GFS is looking. Again, westerly with showers along the spells of rain, quite windy too on Sunday. And then, of course, we're into this sort of very unsettled wet spell for southern parts of the country. Again, that trailing weather front down there. At the same time, colder air is beginning to move into Scotland, where it is a great deal drier. Quite a significant area of low pressure there on the 23rd of December, developing along that trailing front. So it does actually develop into quite a significant low pressure down to the southwest approaches of the country. Again, that is trying to pull up mild air from the south, but this cold air is digging in from the north. This is the sort of thing that can give an unexpected snow event. There isn't any suggestion really of much in the way of snow from this as we're moving to Christmas. But, it's just one of those things that it does need to be kept a close eye on, this. That's Christmas Eve. The colder air has dug even further southwards on Christmas Eve. Again, that's where the position of the weather front is going to be then. But the cold air is digging in from the north and pushing the low pressure away. So by Christmas Day, we're all into this cold northerly. So we still get our cold northerly on Christmas Day. That will give us a nice seasonal feel, and probably with frost early and late, especially for the north. By Boxing Day, we're reverting wind back into west. This is what I was talking about a moment ago. So it does look as though we're going to run more energy into the North Atlantic early next week. I think that's associated with the northerly plunge that is coming for Eastern America over Christmas. That will enhance the jet stream and sort of pull the winds back into the west just after Christmas. So Boxing Day, 27th of December, goes milder, but also wet and windy. But then by 23rd to 28th of December, that low pressure digging southwards again through Central Europe, bringing the wind back into the north again. So another northerly shot there on the 28th of December. That could bring cold air back in, maybe the chance of some snow. Winds tilt back to the west again after that one, and then in comes the next low pressure from the northwest as we head towards the new year. That low pressure sinks southwards, and we sort of go back into the northerly again into the beginning of 2021. With each of these northerly shots, as we're going further on into winter, the air should be getting colder, and there should be a growing potential for snow from each of these, continuing northerly shots. We also end up still with high pressure up here over Scandinavia, backing to the Siberian high, so we need to keep a close eye on that as well, of course. It just generally looks like, although there will be milder days, over the next couple of weeks, I think, from around Christmas onwards anyway, there is going to be quite a lot of cold weather, really. GM looks like that. So again, we're looking at a very wet spell for England and Wales. Should be early part of next week. Takes longer to get rid of that low for GM, but we do eventually get wind into the north by Christmas Day. Then we go back into like a milder westerly as we head towards day 10. That is day 10, 27th of December. This low pressure coming in off the Atlantic. Again, though, this low is probably going to go in that direction and pull wind back into the north in its wake, I think, as this ridge pulls up to there. So another northerly shot probably takes place between Christmas and the New Year. And then the ECM looks like that. So again, plenty of rain to come until Christmas Eve, and then we get rid of that low. That clears away. We get the wind into the north. We get a northerly shot for Christmas Day. Wind turns back into the west on Boxing Day, so milder for Boxing Day. Just a little cold northerly for Christmas Day, milder for Boxing Day. That's how it finished on the 27th of December. Still looking reasonably mild, actually, there with winds in from a westerly direction. I don't think we'd have to wait too long for our next northerly shot, though. This is the precipitation forecast based on that ECM run from Tibetio.com. You're going to see a lot of rain coming and going, and particularly focused on England and Wales, of course. A little bit of snow for Scotland there through the early part of next week, but it's particularly England and Wales that is a focus for the wet weather up to Christmas Eve. That's like midnight on Christmas Eve, still pouring with rain across England and Wales. And when that all gets out of the way, we turn wind into the north. That possibly brings some snow showers into northern eastern Scotland, some wintry showers running down the east coast for Christmas Day. But a lot of dry weather, but it will be quite cold. And then into Boxing Day, this system comes in from the northwest. A little bit of snow associated with that in the north. That sort of fizzles out, but it does turn things milder as we get to day 10. These are the options on the table. Then the ECM ensembles today for Christmas Day from the Icelandic Met Office have 17 members of the ECM ensembles with above average heights to our north and northwest, below average heights to east and southeast. We're going to be bringing in cold winds from the north. That includes the control and the operational run. 15 with high pressure to our west, low pressure to the east. Again, probably bringing in winds from the north with that. 10 with low pressure to our east, high pressures out to the northwest. That looks quite cold and northerly. And then 9 with high pressure out to the northwest. Low pressure is still over the country, and with winds coming in from the northeast, that's probably the one that has the greatest potential for some snow, really. Into Boxing Day. So let's look at Boxing Day. These are the options we've got for Boxing Day. So very similar, really. 17 with high pressure just out to our west, but starting to bring some milder air in around the top. That includes the control and the operational run. 15 with high pressure a little bit further south, once again bringing in winds from the west. 10 with this low pressure over to the east of the country. That's still going to be cold. Winds in from the north. And the 9 down here also cold, with low pressure to our south and east, high pressure to our north and northwest. Again, winds are probably coming in from a northeasterly direction. In 10 days' time, these are the options that we've got. This is for the 27th of December. 17 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure to west, low pressure to the east. That's going to be bringing in mild air from the northwest again. 15 with high pressure down to our south, low pressure to the north. That's going to be milder, winds a little bit westerly. 10 with low pressure over top of the country, high pressure out there. Again, that looks like it's probably going to be quite cold with winds still from the north. 9 still with this low pressure over to the south country, high pressure to the northwest, bringing in winds from probably a north or northeast direction. In 2 weeks' time, these are the options that we've got. This gets us to New Year's Day. We have 12 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure to our north, high pressure to our south, mild and westerly. 11 with high pressure to our north and west, low pressure over and to the south and east of the country. That's probably going to be quite cold, winds from the north. 9 with blocking, high pressure blocking over Scandinavia to north of Scotland. Winds are going to be easterly with that. That's going to be a very cold option. Low pressure to the south could provide some snow, southern parts of the country. Wow. 8 with a mid-Atlantic ridge going up to Greenland. Low pressure to our east and south. That could be bringing in cold northeasterly winds. 6, which does include the ECM control run as well, by the way, with low pressure to the east, mid-Atlantic ridge going up to Greenland. That's going to be cold with winds from the north. And 5 with high pressure sitting over the country, probably just keeping us dry, cold and frosty. Most of those options look cold. I mean, we do have the 12 here that are mild and westerly, but all the other options involve cold to varying degrees, really, for the new year. So the outlook remains very, very interesting, to say the least. Lastly, Beijing Climate Centre means a 500 millibar heights break it down to week periods. The first week period, no, 10-day period, sorry. The first 10-day period would take us from the 11th to the 20th of December. Coming 10 days have northern blocking with low pressure over top of the country, looking quite cold in the coming 10 days, therefore. The next 10-day period will take us from the 21st to the 30th of December with low pressure to the northwest, winds in from a westerly direction. I'm not sure about these charts at all, by the way. The next 10-day period is going to be the 31st December to the 9th of January. Low pressure to the north, high pressure to the south. That's probably quite mild for the new year. I don't think we have to consider these too much, to be honest. And then the final 10-day period is going to be the 10th to the 19th of December with low pressure to our north and unsettled, and probably bringing the wind in a little bit from the northwest. I won't worry about that at all. The only reason I showed you those is that the latest CFS charts are delayed being put up today on the CFS website for some reason. I don't know why that's happened. But I thought I'd just show Beijing Climate Centre today. And if there's a delay tomorrow putting the CFS weeklies up, then we'll have today's to go out when we do JMA Friday. So we've got them, to go out tomorrow. For JMA Friday, if there's another delay tomorrow, putting the CFS weeklies up. So that's the only reason I showed you the Beijing Climate Centre. I'm not at all sure about those 500 millibar heights. I think we've got to keep a very close eye on what's happening over the Christmas period. So it still looks like we're going to get our cold northerly for Christmas Day. Probably goes a little bit milder just after, and then back to colder between Christmas and New Year. The New Year itself could be quite cold as well, as we've already established. Repeated sort of northerly shots, and as these northerly shots keep coming through, they should be getting colder as well as the winter progresses. The wider picture, of course, is what's happening in the stratosphere. So yeah, we've got to keep a very close eye on what's going on in the stratosphere as we move into January also. Right, that's it for your 10 to 14 day for today. We're going to be back later on with the 21st Christmas update, so come back for that then. Loads coming up tomorrow. I'll tell you about all of that at the end of tonight's Christmas update. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.